then I really think that they really sort of pushed that back into the forefront, and I think that was really cool. They did lack, it's pretty easy to hear that it does lack sort of the original vibe to it, but they were trying to recreate, they were covering Lou Donaldson songs and so on.
Oh man, they reinstated Boogaloo, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like they were playing what they love, so I respect that. At the same time, I had to move on.
Absolutely, because you did that 30 years ago. Yeah,
and I enjoyed that little taste, but my viewpoint of it is I was going to go out there and explode like Elvin Jones did with Train on this type of stuff, but it would throw them off, or like I say, they were still working on trying to get funky. And right. it made for a weird vibe, so I had to rein in my stuff, which was okay. I mean, it's like it's not the first time I've been through that, you know.
Right? Yeah. Well, that was kind of what they tried to make you do on Thrust too, right?
Well, they did, except for Actual Proof.
Right.
Yeah. And whenever you play music that's usually got the funky root, I don't think they're really hearing it for the drums to explore, but like the saxophones and the pianos and everything, but I'm past the point of just laying a groove. I don't have to prove that. I've laid so many grooves and been sampled by some of the greatest that ever walked that, for me to just play time. No, I mean, there's times when I feel like not playing anything but the groove.
Right. Yeah, of course.
And then there's the appropriate, if I'm being paid and somebody says, I just want you to play. But for me at this point, if it's my gig, then, then I want to be, it's pretty loose. Anybody who plays with me knows that it's a pretty unstructured thing. I have tunes, you got to be able to cut the tunes.
Mm-hmm.
But rather than having it be this way or that way, less or more or whatever the vibe is when you play in my gig, you just have to be able to swing and get funky. And if you can do those two things, I don't care what happens after that. And you have to be able to play the blues.
Right. Well, sometimes you got all those at the same time. I've seen you several times. And I think that, that's really something that comes through all the time is the blues and funk and swing.
Yeah, it's kind of like what I do.
Right.
I mean, those are I have never explored the Latin thing. I've played Latin music, but I really don't know the correct stuff to play. That's not something you play just by rote or from the heart. I mean, you have to play from the heart, of course, but I mean, you got to know what you're doing. And I've had such a working schedule for so long, I've never been able to get with a great drummer or percussionist, even Bill Summers, and say, now please teach me what to do. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because you have to really live with the music as long as I've lived with the blues, the funk, and the jazz. You got to really know that stuff. You just can't play a 3-2 clave and say, okay, I got this.
And that's very difficult music too. That's very difficult music.
Yeah, you got to know what the piano player is doing. It's very interesting. I listen to it all the time for fun, but I wouldn't dare sit down and pretend I know what I'm doing. I mean, it's like so. If I ever get the time off the road, I think there's plenty like Phoenix Rivera. There's plenty of great drummers I could go to in New York and say, listen, brother, show me what's up.
Yeah.
Teach me some beats, and then teach me what to do and what not to do, and then I'll go out and do $50 gigs and learn just like those guys did when they were kids,
Well, I think that's fantastic that there's still stuff that you're working on, even with your reputation and with your with your history and so on like that. I think that's really, really great. And,
you know what, Todd? I practice 1 hour each day, no matter what.
All right.
Even when I'm recording, I take a practice pad and sneak away, and I get it in.
All right. That's great.
And I don't practice what I know. I work on new things,
Always got to do what you don't know, because you already know how to do what you already know.
Yeah, my practice routine used to be going in there and doing what I know for an hour and come out wringing wet, And now I'm realizing, wait a minute, I wasn't growing. So I talk to drummers, I get books, I get things, I find out stuff, I'll ask people about things, and I'll start working on it,
Yeah. Well, now speaking of drums and so on like that, we're going to play one more tune from your new album, Carnival of Soul, which is available on iTunes. You can get it on Amazon. I'm sure it's available at record stores everywhere. But I want to make sure that people know what it is and how to get it, because it's a great album.
Thank you.
You did an album, so we got to mention 4 drummers now. We got to mention you and Lenny White. That's who plays on the song, and then we got to mention Sid Catlett and Max Roach, because I know about this through Max Roach. I immediately, when I heard it the first time, I thought, oh, it's that thing from Drums Unlimited. and that's what I thought was the For Big Sid. And we've played that on the show before, and I really we'll play that first, and then we'll play this track. But so tell me how that came about. That's one of your compositions?
Well, Lenny and I were, like I say, he was sitting in the booth, and we were laughing and talking and joking. And we were talking about, we always get around to Max Roach, Philly Joe, Art Blakey, Tony Williams, Elvin, Billy Higgins, and somehow we got into Max, and that lick is called Mop Mop.
Okay.
And we're talking about Mop Mop and how it actually came from Sid Catlett, and Max made it famous later.
Right.
But and so I was like, yeah, well, you know, we need to do a tribute to Sid Catlett because he's the daddy of what we all do, or one of them,
right?
You know. And he was like, "Yeah, you got that right." And the next thing you know, he goes, "Let's do it right now, right during my record date." And I went, "Huh?" And he went, "Let's do it right now. There's another drum set in there." And I said, "You got your cymbals with you?" And he went, "Yep." I went, "Okay, let's do it right now." And we did. But all my music is a tip of the hat. I mean, I don't copy other drummers. I take a little bit here and there, but I put my own spin on everything. Most of my drumming is a tip of the hat to the forefathers, the guys that brought it before I got on the scene, you know?
Right.
And then I take it and try to make it fit my own sensibilities, and I'm a more modern player because I'm from a different time zone and I had different experiences. You know, naturally, I still tune my drums like Max Roach. I don't know whether they're exactly like Max, but something like that.
That's the idea, yeah.
So, yeah, that's the yeah. And so when I play funk gigs, people look at me weird sometimes because I have an 18-inch bass drum and toms that sound like Max Roach. I don't have the Steve Gadd or the Studio or the whatever that sound is. I don't dislike that sound. I just don't use it. I have used it plenty, especially if I go to do a date, and that's the type of drum set that's in there, you know.
Right.
But I play a lot of jazz gigs in New York, so I don't want to be tuning my drum set up and down and up and down and up and down. So I kind of leave it there, and then I change the bass drum. You know, if it's a funk gig, I tune it down. If it's a jazz gig, I tune it to a C on the high side.
All right.
Yeah, and I never take the front head off, and I don't have a hole in the front head or any of that stuff. I play just old school because I like to hear the note of the bass drum. I can do things with that note that I can't do if there's a blanket inside there or padding, you know.
Right.
Although I don't dislike that either. I'm not one of those guys that hates one way and only sees it my way. You know, I don't mind that either. But this is what I do to my set just because I grew up that way, and it's kind of hard to get that sound. And you know, it's a challenge to play a drum set like that, too.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it makes for a very unique sound. You have a very unique funk sound, and you always have.
Thank you. Well, you know, when I sit in on another guy's set, I never change anything. I never move the cymbals to make it comfortable. I like the challenge of physically dealing with something that I'm not used to. And sometimes, even on my own set, if I set it up kind of ragged, I'll look at it and I go like, you know, everything's not where I like it, so I'm going to play the whole night like this. I just, you know, like that little bit of a challenge to myself because the drums is a physical thing. It's not all feel and technique. It's like playing baseball or something. There's a physical aspect to it, and sometimes I like to challenge that. It's fun, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we'll go ahead and play this. We'll play the Max Roach For Big Sid, and then we'll play Cat Let Out of the Bag from your new album. I'd like to thank you so much for taking time out. I know you're very busy this week mixing the Headhunters album. When should we expect the Headhunters album? Do you know? December. All right, cool.
Yeah.
It's always a pleasure talking to you, Mike, and you're always welcome I would love to talk to you some more when the Headhunters album comes out. We'll talk to you then.
Well, I'm also anxious to hear when your album comes out because I've heard a couple of tracks and I thought it was smoking, so let's not forget that.
Oh, well, thank you very much, Mike. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And thank you for taking the time with me, Todd. It means a lot to me. And all the listeners and all you guys, once again, thanks for all the years of hanging with me, and I'm still hanging with all of you, too.
Well, thanks very much, Mike, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, brother. Thank you.